So there's that. That's your tie rod out. Just put this back on top. All right, so we got our tie rod off. That's just hanging freely there. It doesn't really matter where you put it for now. It'll be out of your way here. Next step is going to be taking the brake caliper off, which is over here. You're going to do that by buzzing off this 15mm bolt and this 15mm bolt, which are holding on your brake caliper and also your steering lock stop. So when you're at full angle in your car steering, that stop down there, this is the bump stop and this is the stop, and it hits this and stops you from turning anymore so that your wheels don't rub. Mine are a little worn out, so you know, I'm still rubbing, but who cares? Who cares? So we're gonna go in here with a 15 and buzz these two off. I'll be back once I do that. All right, first step for replacing the control arms is gonna be buzzing off your tie rods. It's a 18mm bolt on top. You can tell mine's a little bit rusted because I nicked it putting in the tie rods, which took off some of that rust coating. And once the rust starts, it never stops. So I'm gonna have to replace those again. But if we come here, you can see that's where the tie rod disconnected from. Now you have the ability to fully turn the wheel. The next thing you're gonna do is buzz off these guys, which is gonna hold in your brake caliper and your bump stop here. So this is what stops your wheel from turning more after you've reached full turning lock. All right, so that 15mm on the back of the brake caliper is giving me a little bit of trouble here. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go in with my breaker bar, just try to get it loose. All right, so now that we've got that guy loose back here, let me see if I can get a flashlight on it for you. That's gonna be right there. Oh. Situation. Slide that off. And now, in theory, our caliper should just slide right off for us. There's that. And now I got to tie this caliper up to my All right, guys, so we got that tied up there. Actually going to be removing this ABS wheel speed sensor bolt right there. Hopefully, it works with me. I'm going to spray just a little bit of WD-40, but you got to be careful because you don't actually want to get it on the sensor there. There we go. All right, and now I'm gonna grab my 10mm ratchet. Unfortunately, I can't fit any power tools here just because of this. And I don't have any 10mm 1/2-inch drive sockets, and my torque gun is a 1/2-inch drive. So I got that ABS wheel speed sensor popped out. I just taped on the screw there so I couldn't lose it. Next thing is pulling this little grommet right here out. Just wiggle it out of there, maybe. There you go. Punch the wall a little bit. All right. So next thing we're gonna be doing, if you can see here, is taking off this strut bolt. You have to counter hold on the back side here, which is a little out of view for you guys, but it's a counter hold on the back, which is going to be 21mm, I think 21mm. I'm using a standard wrench for this one because I don't have a 21mm wrench. So you pop your wrench on there, get that feeling solid. And I've been letting this soak and rust penetrate for a while now, so hopefully it'll be easy on me, but you really never know when you're working with a 18-year-old car like this guy. So you really have to work with these guys. They've been in there for a while and they got all of the pressure from the strut. So just a little pop out on that one. There we go. And now that strut will just pop right off. As you can see right there, fully disconnected. All right, so now we've got that strut to the side here pushed off. This is the actual back of my caliper there. Next step here is going to be taking off the CV axle. CV axles can be a bit of a pain. This one here hasn't been replaced in a while, so it may take a while to actually get off of there. There we go. That was easier than I thought it was going to be. As you can see here, we got that CV disconnected. Next step here is going to be bungeeing up that CV axle. Broken loose, so it should be fairly easy on you. You can see that spun right off there. And now this whole rotor is going to come off. Maybe. In theory, the rotor will come off. There we go. All right, guys, now for the fun part. We are under the car. So you can see on this side, I really struggled. I had to get these two bolts out, which are running directly under two lines there. So a fuel line and a brake line, I believe. So you have to be super careful, not break them. Took me about 3 hours just to get those two bolts off here. Now I'm excited for the driver's side for that exact reason, because those bolts are free right here and right here, along with the third control arm bolt right here. You can see I already sprayed some rust penetrant on that guy. Oh, sorry. It's a little bit cramped under here, so I'm trying my best. Alrighty, guys. It has been about a day and a half since I talked to you last. I have been working on breaking these two bolts loose for that long, believe it or not. I finally just came out victorious with this guy. This guy's already loose and out of there. So now just a couple more turns on here. This control arm should pop out. We also got this, which is an 18 millimeter on bottom, 21 millimeter on top. That's what mounts your control arm in right here. So that one's completely out there. All right, so you can see why these bolts gave us so much trouble. If I just toss it, you can see all that rust coming out. Alrighty, guys, so we got that new control arm in place. Basically how you do that, you tap this guy in with a mallet like this over here. Just get this center bearing lined up with this hole that the bolt runs through, and then you can get this guy in first. I don't have it tightened down yet, just enough to keep it in place there. And then I go in under here, you can see. Oh, sorry, I just got a metal splinter in my hand. That's no fun. If I go in under here, you can see that I'm tightening these bolts slowly. So I actually did end up getting a fresh bolt in this guy, which is good. I was worried about that. So I've showed you the clearance issue with these bolts before right here. And basically what I had to do to get these bolts to clear. Sorry, let me get a light in here. So these two bolts gave me a lot of trouble. Right here and right here, these are my control arm mounting bolts. There's also a bolt for the control arm mounting right here as well. But these two are the biggest pain because your engine oil pan and your transmission hang right down on top of it. So what I had to do to clear it, I put a little bit of plywood on a jack stand just so I wouldn't damage my transmission. And I had to jack this up pretty high. It was a little sketchy. I'm gonna drop it down slowly for you now to show you how much I had this raised. There we go. So that's the original height that it was at, where there's just no clearance to get in here with anything, no socket, nothing. So I had to raise it up a little bit higher to get a socket on there. I got a breaker bar on it and just twisted on it. You can see where that breaker bar still didn't clear. I gouged out a little bit of my oil pan, but we've got the new hardware in and we are good to go. We got the new control arm on. Now we're just gonna swap over the bump stops on there and start putting it back together. And putting everything back together is basically the reverse of the process we did to take it apart. So we got the control arm on there, and then we put the new ball joint in through the control arm. We put our little ball joint nut here, and you tighten that up. That's an 18 millimeter nut. So then once you've got that rotor on, you slide the CV axle back in place here, which is right here for you. Basically that just splines in. It's a little union. You have to get it splined up perfectly, so it's a little tedious. I couldn't show that process on camera. And our next step here is gonna be getting our strut mounted back up to our brake caliper, which is an even more tedious process. All right, so this is one of the more challenging parts of getting this car back together. As you can see here, we got it almost lined up. But basically what you have to do is you have to compress down your control arm, get a lot of load on there so that you can get this bolt to slide through both of these holes, which can really be a challenge. All right, that looks good. Woo! Alrighty guys, we got those bolts threaded up on our strut mount. I untied our caliper from up on the strut, brought it down here, and then what you gotta do is you gotta get your caliper aligned up with your, bump stop here. And then you thread in the screws for this bump stop. And I can final step in putting everything back together. You take your center axle locking nut, bunch of Loctite on there, so be really careful not to get dirt on it while it's sitting out. I'm gonna hand thread this guy in. That is how you replace control arms. I actually lied to you guys. There's a couple more things that I forgot to do. So first thing is going to be your tie rod. Very important. You want to be able to steer when you drive. Make sure that that's tightening. Stick it. Alrighty, that's snug on there. Next step here, you're going to take your ABS wheel speed sensor. I just taped over that little bolt so I couldn't lose it. I like to slide it into this little grommet here first. And a little bit of WD-40 or any petroleum-based lubricant helps here, just to get this guy to sink in really nice. Otherwise, it can just be a bit of a pain. Plastic on plastic, sliding into a grommet is never fun. It's still gonna give me a little bit of trouble here, of course. Maybe. Come on, there we go. All right, so that pops right in. All right, that's as tight as I'm getting it in there because I don't want to break it again. Now you have officially put your car back together. Tie rod, CV axle, new control arm, new ball joint down here, looking fresh as ever. New sway bar links, and we are good to go.